Just obviously, it's going to be a very informal one, but for golf, especially for golf, I think the technology that is used is something like a complete like a space mission. And NASA scientists are working on whether it's golf equipment, whether it's teaching. So if you look at other sports compared to golf, I think technology is nowhere close. I mean, even if you look at cricket or hockey or even tennis, I don't think the kind of technology that is used. So both of you, this is something that both of you are going to be talking about. So why don't we start with equipment? We don't need to go through the history of equipment, but what is the kind of technology that goes into R&D? If both of you could put some light on, because people don't know. You everyone buys a fake. There are a lot of people who buy fake clubs which look like a Callaway for $10, whereas a Callaway club may cost you $400, and that's obviously because of the R&D and the all the research that goes in. So if both of you could just talk on that. One of maybe Karan, you can start, and then Anitya can take over.
Yeah, Indrajit, the equipment industry over the last, 20-25 years has changed tremendously. I mean, from the time in the late 80s, early 90s, where clubs used to be so different from what they are today. So much has changed. I think everything has gone towards pretty much uh, making the game easier for the average golfer. And with by that I mean the club heads have become larger because the sweet spot has become bigger. Off center hits are going straighter. I remember when I started playing golf in the mid '80s, the clubs used to be so difficult to hit, and if you do that in today's scenario, when we teach a whole lot of beginners, they would find it really difficult to start playing with those clubs. So I think that's really changed the way beginners are playing with the modern clubs. Not only has the club head become bigger, but the materials used to construct clubs. Obviously, graphites was kind of beginning to come into being, in the early '90s, making the clubs overall lighter. Um, and then became the race to hit the ball longer. And today, what we see is everything. I mean, distance is the king. So everything that goes longer, it gives you an instant gratification. It gives you an instant sense of achievement that you're hitting the ball further. So everything has then moved towards hitting the ball further. So today, not only is the ball going straighter with off-center hits, but the ball is going further than ever before. And to the point that the governing bodies are discussing how to then control that now. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the kind of R&D that has gone into getting to where we are today, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of uh, money and resources being spent by the world's leading brands, and you can see the results now, not only in the beginner, but a club golfer, um, and of course the tour pro has also benefited from all this.
So just Anitya, I want to change the question a little bit. Both you and Karan have been to different facilities across the world. Club fitting, not really club fitting, but companies like a Callaway or a Ping. Uh, what goes on there? The people really don't talk about it, but I think Anitya, both you and Karan can talk a little bit about. I've been to a few facilities in America, and it's mind-boggling. And so, I just want you to talk a little bit about what all goes into the R&D of equipment.
Yeah, Indrajit, I mean, companies are spending millions of dollars on R&D. Millions of shots are being tested. They're using now artificial intelligence. Programming and artificial intelligence is actually coming back to find and tell you whether this is suited to you or that is suited to you, and that the difference may be as little as 2 grams or 3 grams of weight on the club head on in a certain positioned in a certain way. Obviously, no company wants to lose the edge. Every company wants to make its clubs as good, if not better than the other. And, whether it's how far the company's leading driver goes, or how easy is the 7 and the 6 iron to hit, or how forgiving is the wedge to chip out of, or whatever. A lot of, the race is on for all of these things, and each equipment manufacturing company wants the results of its R&D to make to stretch the limits even further. Coming from wooden heads in the 80s to steel heads in maybe the early 90s, to titanium, to carbon composites, to so on and so forth. But yes, R&D is pushing the limits, and so is the fitting experience. So to answer your question, you go to go get yourself fitted. Fitting is in proper fitting centers across Europe and America. Is fitting's a full day process. I mean, they'll spend 3 hours with you on in their driving range with launch monitors and feedback and numbers and all, or inside in indoor areas where literally hundreds of combinations are possible. They'll have 20 different club heads with 50 different shaft options with swing weight and whatever. And literally they'll get you to hit that many clubs, and the data is there for you to see, because they've got you connected to a launch monitor, and it tells you on screen over there as to this club head and this shaft is giving you 3 yards extra carry because the apex of the ball is maybe 12 feet higher in the air. So they're using cutting edge technology along with the R&D that the benefit they have of, to ensure that you as the golfer, whatever your level, you as the golfer are using the total benefit of technology that's available out there. And I think more so now than ever before in the history of this game, technology is playing a huge part.
So tell us about, this is for both of you, tell us about your experience visiting, I'm not saying a fitting center, but visiting one of the, I know you've been to Ping, I think you've been to Callaway, you must have been to other places also. Just, I want you to talk about the experience, because I think 99% of the people out here have never visited a Callaway factory or a Callaway R&D area or a Ping one. So just a little bit, both of you just, tell everybody what's it like. What do you see there?
So I'll actually start that, Karan, and you can take on the Ping experience. I'll take on the Callaway experience that Karan and I together went to. I think it's 2014, January 13, sorry. 2013, that we both together went to California to to Callaway headquarters. So they took us to the Erie Callaway Performance Center, which is their research headquarters, and they took us through every room has, this is a putter research center, this is a driver head only research center, this is a shaft research center, this is a fitting, whatever that may. And then they had various things over there where how a club head design comes about, through the engineers, programming softwares, to artificial intelligence, to all of those things. And then they had the iron byron machine, which is basically you can fit a shaft on that machine and the machine swings back and through. So it eliminates the human error or the human variable. It's going to make the same swing every time. So if I want to actually see how my club head performs, if I hit it, if the impact spot is, let's say, 12 mm towards the toe, I can program the iron byron to hit every ball 12 mm to the toe side, and then it'll show me 20 shots in a row when the ball hits that spot. And then I can take that data and then compare it with the next 20, which are the iron byron hitting the ball at 12 mm on the heel side. So that gives you how it helps you to gauge the forgiveness of that. And then they took us, after that, they took us to their fitting center, actually, which was an indoor unit where I think it was hitting into a simulator with launch monitors and everything, but I think we were surrounded by maybe 300 types of shafts and club heads all around us, levels 1, 2, 3 of club heads and shafts and different grips or whatever. And you could choose from a visual perspective, you're like this club head, this color, this feel, this look. Or you could even choose from an acoustic perspective to say that I like the sound of this club head as it hits the ball, and I don't like the sound. So, I mean, there was so many options there to choose from. And apart from obviously the specifications that you fit into are based obviously on your swing speed, your angle of attack, your point of contact, and all of those things. Those are the technical part, but that's just the basic. It goes way, way, way beyond that. And, they have the expertise and they have the equipment to fit you for many, many more things than just the basic thing of your swing. It's a holistic experience, really.
Right. So, Karan, before you start, if people have questions regarding technology, please type it in, and we will be asking the questions as and when we are talking about something similar. So, Karan, now little bit from you.
Well, Indrajit, my experience of in 2004, I visited Ping. In 2009, I visited the Adams headquarters, and then with Anitya 2013 at Callaway. I mean, the experience firstly of going from India and walking into those places which are huge facilities, and like Anitya said, when you see around you hundreds of shafts and so much of choice of uh, the club fitting experience in terms of club heads and drivers, and just the sheer um, enormity of what goes on there first hits you. But once you get settled and you look around. So what I remember from my experience at Ping, two things stand out. One is, for the first time, I actually saw an iron foundry where iron was first melted, and then it was put in casts of club heads, and then it was allowed to cool, and that's how club heads were made. So that was my first experience to see how cast iron club heads were made. Uh, and then to see the processes. Obviously, companies like Callaway and Ping and the other top brands, they actually go deep into quality control. So I mean, even a small scratch or a dot is out of place, that particular product is rejected, is no longer in the assembly line. But then obviously it was my first experience back then to see how the club head is actually manufactured, and then shaft getting fitted with the grip assembly and the quality control. So obviously that was something something first time for me. But then what I also remember of those visits was, I mean, especially let's stay with my visit to Ping in 2004. You know, just the number of top players who played Ping over the years, and they've all visited that place. They've all gone through the same fitting process, and then you're taken into this putter room where Ping has
I was going to ask you that.
yeah, Ping has a history of manufacturing a putter in gold every time one of their top players wins on a major tour, and to see all those replicas of putters on associated with the wins that all their tour players have had. So I mean, those two things stand out. But yeah, again, whether visiting Adams or then Callaway, it's the sheer uh, enormity of, it's not a small subject. I mean, one, of course, manufacturing clubs cannot be a small subject, but just getting fitted, just a regular person walking in there and getting fitted, it's a big experience.
Right. So there's a question. How do you recognize whether a club is fake or original? So there's a really tough one. But I know we would probably see one and be able to tell. But just a little bit, what both of you think, how you could make sure that you're buying something original.
Well, I think not easy, specifically if you're not a trained eye, not easy at all. Sometimes I can tell you, even we get a little confused because the fakes or the duplicates today are quite good and they're very close to the original stuff. But I think you can actually hold the club and feel it. You can actually swing it. Normally, they are much heavier. The clubs are far heavier than the originals. One of the tricks that I learned is you can actually look at take where the grip meets the shaft, the low end of the grip, you can roll that up and try and roll that up and look inside that. Most of the fakes do not have a number written or or a brand written inside those. So that's one of the ways to identify it. The other way which I use is you look at where the shaft meets the club head, and you look at the ferrule that connects it, and you'll see that that fitting is a very low quality or a cheap quality, both fitting and the ferrule. But I think the overall look and the feel of the club should give you a good idea as to if this is a original or not.
Karan?
Yeah, I mean, because I see clubs day in, day out, so I can make out a slight difference in font or slight difference in the finish. Or you can, obviously you've got to be experienced in looking at that. But yeah, you can very easily get fooled. So obviously the advice would be to firstly not go to a shop which is not an authorized seller of these clubs, and of course reach out to the companies directly or to your professional who you should definitely ask to get fitted. Those are your best chances of not falling in the wrong hands.
Also, I think, if I could add, I think normally the grip gives it away, because the quality of the grip generally in a fake is not, it's not tacky and the lines are not straight.
Yep.
So that's one thing I think everyone can look at is moment you see the quality of the grip, sometimes the head covers also give it away. But like Anitya mentioned, the clubs are generally very, very heavy, and you'll be shocked how heavy some of these graphite shafts are. They're probably heavier than the steel. So I'm not going to stick to too much the club, because today's discussion is more on technology, and we all know that the launch monitor actually changed the way people bought drivers, especially. And I think the first time I really heard about a launch monitor doing something is when Vijay Singh went on a launch monitor, and I think he added some 20-25 yards. That's my first experience of knowing about launch monitors and how much it can actually do by knowing exactly what is happening. So there are different brands, obviously. There's Trackman and FlightScope and everything. So this I know we could talk for an hour over this, but a little bit of what actually a launch monitor is, if both of you could just give a little insight to everybody.
So Indrajit, I will leave that question to the Trackman master professional who's on this call with us.
Okay,
AC, this
Anitya.
is all yours.
So launch monitor is obviously, it's either a radar-based or camera-based, infrared-based, depending on what technology you use in a launch monitor. But essentially, it's a device that can give you all the information in numbers of what the club head is doing and what the golf ball is doing as you're hitting a golf shot. Starting from some basic little things to say, what is my club head speed when my club head hits the ball, to what angle did the ball take off at what part of the club head did I hit the ball, where did it make contact with, did the ball have a draw spin or a fade spin, how far did the ball carry, what angle did it land down in, how much backspin rate did it have, where, if the ball went right, why did the ball go right, was my club face open or my club face was closed, did I come too steep on it, did I take too big a divot. I mean, essentially it gives you information regarding the club head and the golf ball. And I think those two things were in the era before the launch monitor actually came out. Those two things, we didn't have enough data, or we didn't have enough technology to measure those two things. I mean, we could do a video analysis, and sometimes we could even do a 3D biomechanical analysis. But what those two are doing, both the video analysis and the 3D biomechanical analysis, are telling you, either showing you in 2D, which is a video analysis, or showing you in 3-dimensional, which is, I mean, you use a 3D analysis, as to what the human body is doing, what the golfer is doing as the golfer swings the club back and the club through. At best, using a video, you could make a guess as to which part of the club head you've hit the ball on. At best, it would be a guess. It would not be a very accurate number. At best, you could probably guess if you're hitting it on the way down or way up, which is the angle of attack. But again, it would not be very accurate. But I think those are the main things that a launch monitor has brought into the golfer's repertoire, so to say, and that's essential information. Definitely from an instructor's point of view, but also from a lot of golfers are now using launch monitors for their improvement.
I think one other thing that launch monitors have really helped golfers with is it's all instant feedback. So, I could give a lesson 10 years ago and I could ask my student to go up to the driving range and hit 100 balls, trying to make a certain move, trying to change something, but not really know if the outcome is changing. But when you're practicing with a launch monitor right next to you and you're getting feedback with every shot. So you really...
It's like a doctor doing a test, right? It's like a doctor doing a blood test and
it's instant feedback whether you actually the outcome is changing or not.
Yeah.
So, Karan, if you can, both Karan and Anitya, I think if you can give one example of how a launch monitor has actually helped some particular student, you may name or you may not name, that's up to you, but how it helped you improve a player. Just one instance. So like one instance for both of you where the launch monitor actually helped you.
So I can start very, very easily by telling you about myself. I've started hitting the ball further. I mean, it's really, at first it was surprising, but then it was not surprising because, you knew how to read the numbers and you knew the cause and effect of whether you make a certain change in the swing, like hitting more up on the ball or...
No, so give me the example, na? Like what if you found, what helped you, what you saw which helped you hit the ball longer?
Well, I changed my angle of attack to hitting more up on the ball. So that definitely helped me hit the ball longer.
Right. Anitya?
So I think one of the very popular and common lessons that I do is simply driver optimization, which using launch monitor technology. As soon as you know what somebody's club head speed is, like assuming, let's say you have a student who comes in and his club head speed with the driver, let's say, is 100 miles an hour, just as a ballpark figure. Data has actually shown us, and we have this data printed out in our studio, the academy. Data has shown us that if your club head speed is 100 miles an hour, you should be hitting your driver between 270 yards to 295 yards. Now, we know that with most club golfers and amateur students who come in, and they're obviously not optimized as yet. They're obviously losing power somewhere or the other, losing distance somewhere or the other. We know that with most of them, they may swing it at 100 miles an hour, but they're probably hitting it about 240, 250. So, that's the first thing you look at is to say, if the guy is swinging at 100 miles an hour, why is he not hitting it 275, 280? And it's very easy once you look at the other numbers on the launch monitor, whether it's attack angle as in Karan's case, or whether it's smash factor. You may not be hitting it in the center. You may be swinging it 100 miles an hour, but you may be hitting it off the heel, which will only get you to 25 because you're losing a lot of power there. Or the spin rate of the ball may be too high. So if the ball has too much backspin, the ball's not going to penetrate the wind and get the distance. So then maybe point A, point B, point C as to what can you make better so that at least the guy who's swinging at 100 miles an hour in front of you gets into the bracket of 270 to 295. And it's happened a lot of times where in a 1 hour lesson, the guy goes back home and says, wow, I actually put on 35 yards. It's similar to the Vijay Singh story, the Jeet that you started this conversation up. And that happens very regularly with us. Using a launch monitor, you can really optimize driver and get the distances going. And you know that, golfers love it when they get the distance that they want, and they love to see their golf ball going 30 yards longer than what it was.
Okay, so the couple of questions that have come in, a lot of youngsters I know, because a couple of them are my students, are asking, is having a launch monitor very important. I don't mind selling them a few, but they are obviously important. So two parts to this question. You get the cheaper ones like a Mevo, which is I think $500-600 or maybe $1,000 now, and then you have some cheaper launch monitors as well as you have the expensive ones. Who should buy a launch monitor? Also, is it very important for a youngster to have one? Uh, it's a very subjective question, I know, but just to clarify things.
Who should buy it? Look, it's definitely a useful tool to have. But if you have access to a lesson on a launch monitor with your pro or at the academy or the club that you're at, it could be easy. I mean, they cost a lot of money. Yeah, the tour pros practice with it day in, day out. Is their livelihood. It's what they do. It's what makes that little bit of a difference on a daily basis for them. I would say an average junior or club golfer can get themselves on the launch monitor once in 10 days, once a week. If you have access to one, should be good. But I mean, it's a difficult one to answer. You got to make your decision. Yeah.
Also, I think before we go to Anitya, I think if you're not a consistent, I mean, a relatively consistent golfer, having a launch monitor, for every shot that you're hitting is not really going to help because you're going to get numbers which are going to be all over the place. So probably, a 10-year-old kid definitely doesn't need one because that
and also the numbers are you get a lot of numbers and it's as instructors we know how to read the numbers and simplify and give a solution to the student. But everybody may not be able to read the numbers of what they're trying to work at and what is the cause and what is the effect and what you need to do differently to get a better outcome. So you need professional help with that as well.
Okay, Anitya, what about what do you talk about? What do you have to say about a Mevo or one of those cheaper ones like a personal launch monitors?
So Indrajit, I think when you get data, it's obviously very important to get accurate data. I think inaccurate data can actually have a harmful effect. I have never tried the Mevo myself, so I don't know about it. I do believe, I think it's a FlightScope product. FlightScope is one of it's one of the leading launch monitor companies. So my guess is that it'll be fairly good. For I think whatever the $500,000 that you're mentioning, it should be fairly good if it's from FlightScope, and it should have a good usability for that price. Having said that, I would totally agree with Karan to say if as a junior, as a club member or whatever, if you have access to a launch monitor once a week or once in 10 days with your coach or the academy that you go to, that's good enough. I mean, because from our instructor's point of view, yes, we should, because it's like a doctor having an MRI machine. The MRI machine can give the doctor enough information so that the analysis of what they have to do after that is accurate enough, and the doctor understands how to use the MRI machine as well as how to read and understand what the MRI machine is telling you. But I think from a club players or a junior or a high handicap players perspective, because there is a lot of variability there, as long as you have access to a good launch monitor with a good educated professional who can help you with what is coming out of what numbers are coming out and what it's telling you, that's good enough.
Right. So Anitya, Karan, both of you, you are also into indoor golf, and what is really indoor golf? And I know that you're also doing TrackMan indoor golf. What is it all about? Because no one really knows. No one actually in India understands what it's all about. So can you just talk about it? It's obviously not a marketing video or a chat, but just for us to understand. Even I would like to understand. I remember I went to a facility in Bangalore at Leela, and then I went to Maurya. This was like 20 years back. Maurya had I think Raju used to work there. Raju, who's working with you now. So what is this indoor TrackMan facility that you guys are doing? What does it do?
So what is indoor golf? Indrajit, back in the day when we were growing up, indoor golf for us was to just have a putting mat at home. And after we played golf the whole day, we would go home and we would putt and just make 6 or 7 footers. That was the length of the putting mat. I mean, those still exist. But indoor golf is simply playing a round of golf in the comfort of your homes or offices. I mean, that's what indoor golf is, right? You're stationary. You're not outdoors. You're an indoor in an indoor space. But the space has been developed in a way that gives you a chance to uh, hit a real ball with a real club, but obviously it doesn't travel the distance that it would on the golf course. And then came into being the simulators and the machines. And then what we do with the TrackMan simulators is to simulate as close as possible the real feel. But obviously, it's in the comfort of your homes.
Right. So does it? So you can play different golf courses, right? You could be playing a Pebble Beach or a British, St Andrews, or any of these courses with the wind and everything. So can you just very briefly just tell us how you can play a golf course, or how I could actually compete with somebody who's sitting in Bangalore? Someone in Calcutta, Delhi, and Bangalore could actually be playing on a simulator and actually be playing a similar condition or something of that sort.
So the simulator has obviously, like I said, you're hitting a real ball with a real club, which is actually then hitting into a screen, which is specially designed to absorb the impact of the ball flying at even 130, 20 miles per hour, and not really rebounding on you. So all those safety aspects are taken care of. But with the TrackMan launch monitor, which is stationed behind you, like it is at a academy or a driving range, it is it is catching the flight of the ball before the ball hits the screen, and then it is simulating on the screen via its virtual to interface and software, and it's giving you a depiction of how the ball is actually going to be flying as if it were outdoors. Uh, that's basically the simplest way to explain what happens when you hit a shot. Uh, but because of the TrackMan technology that is integrated into this, you're getting accurate data and accurate feedback about how far the ball's going to go. I mean, that was really one of the drawbacks in simulators over the years, that you were really not sure if you're getting the accurate data how far the ball's going to go. Now, with the simulation that has been developed via the TrackMan simulator technology, close to 100 golf courses have been mapped to match the features of the golf course. So when you stand on a tee, you actually see on the screen in front of you, obviously via projection, how the golf hole is looking right in front of you. When the ball is flying, it's flying past the same trees and past the same bunkers, and it's actually giving you a very, very close real life feel, right? All these courses that are available, you can just switch it on. You can set it to the tees that you want to play from. You want to play from championship tees or blue tees or ladies red tees. You can set the wind factor. You can set the pin positions are tough today or easy today. All of that can actually be pre-fed into the system, and then you play a round of golf. So you hit a shot into the screen. It flies as if you hit it on the golf course. It flies 260 yards, and the next thing is the screen shows that you are at 260 yards, and then it shows you what looks of the balance of the hole, and what kind of shot you need to hit. I mean, in simple words, that's how you play the round of golf.
Right. So we'll try and share a screenshot. Sia, can you share indoor golf's picture so that everyone can see?
Yeah. So there you have you're hitting off the AstroTurf mats, which are very, very similar to, obviously,
Right.
like grass. They have enough cushion, and they absorb the shock of the club hitting the ground. But then you see in front of you about 10 feet plus away, you can see the screen, which is a specially designed screen. It's projecting a very high quality laser image, so you get a real feel of the graphics, and then it is also made of a material that will absorb the shock of the ball hitting the screen at that speed and just falling dead and not really bouncing back on you. And the yellow line that you can see on the screen is basically showing what flight the ball took. And that, I think, is looking like the 18th tee at
St.
St.
Andrews.
Andrews. Yeah.
Yes.
And on the right hand side, you can see some numbers of how far the ball had carried or how far it's gone, and it's also showing you the amount of wind right to left or left to right. So fairly detailed.
So two people in two different cities can actually be playing a match if they have the same monitors.
Yeah.
And
You can actually play a global competition on this.
You could even have a tournament on this, right?
Yes, absolutely. And many tournaments are being held on this as we speak. I mean, even in India, we're doing some of this.
Right. So my next question is about the K-West or the 3D simulation. I know again Anitya is the expert in this. So Anitya, can you just shed some light on what a K-West does, or even a balance plate? So just a little bit of that, and then we will talk about putting.
Right. So K-West is essentially a three-dimensional biomechanic analysis of what your body is doing as you take your setup and as you take your swing. Now, the K-West does not tell you anything about the club or the ball. It tells you about what your body is doing. So, if I'm setting up and let's say my right shoulder is too far lower than my left and there's too much side bend, it'll tell me how many degrees there is. If I'm bending too much from my spine, it'll tell me that. Let's say if I turn in my backswing and let's say my shoulder turn is 65 degrees, whereas my instructor would like me to make close to a 90-degree shoulder turn, it'll measure it and it'll tell me right there and then. And then, and I mean, it gives you numbers and degrees and angles of what your body is doing. So if my coach then programs the K-West to say that, okay, I want you to turn 90 degrees in your backswing, and then he puts a feedback with a sound or a music or whatever, the sound will only play if I turn 90 degrees. So as a student, it's for me, there's immediate feedback to say, you know what, unless I turn fully up to 90 degrees, I'm not going to hear the sound, and the sound tells me that yes, I have turned there. So I have immediate feedback, and it's a great way for me to train and get into doing the right thing that my coach wants me to do. I mean, alternately, before all of this technology was there, when I was playing, if my coach ever told me, okay, I want you to turn 90 degrees, firstly, it would be tough for both him and me to understand how much is 90 degrees. Secondly, even if I understood that, all we could do, and what we did this, was we would go in front of a mirror and we would try and turn the shoulders back and then keep looking at the mirror to say, oh, am I doing the right thing or am I not doing the right thing? So with a K-West, it just tells you in any aspect of your golf swing, it tells you what you're doing, and then your coach can actually program it to train you to do what they would like you to do. So it's just a very good feedback mechanism that you have with it.
And what about sorry?
The other one you asked me for was Balance Lab, right? What's
balance?
Or a force plate. So whether it's a SAM Balance Lab or any of the force plates that are available now, force plates are, essentially they're like your they're like your weighing scale that you have at home. And if you stand on a weighing scale, immediately it tells you what your body weight is. So the Balance Lab or the force plate basically does more or less the same thing, but in a more complicated manner. It tells you between your feet, where is your body weight, where's your center of gravity coming, and it tells you in real time. So when you stand, let's say you're standing balanced, assuming that your weight is balanced between your 2 feet and both from left foot and right foot perspective, as well as the toe and heel perspective, which would then mean that you're balanced absolutely in the middle of your feet. But that's only at setup. Once you turn back and as you turn through, you know that the weight shifts. And what the force plate does is it tells you how your weight is shifting, where is it going, which part of your foot are you using to make what action. So as I take my backswing and I have to turn my hips and I have to turn my trunk, my torso, I am using, let's say, the front of my left foot and the back of my right foot, and the force plate will tell you that. Let's say one of my students had a slide in the downswing. They were sliding too much. What it tells me, what the force plate will tell me, is that they are basically not using the back of their right foot or the front of their left foot enough. And then I know exactly how to train my student so that they don't slide into the downswing, they can turn the hip. So it's again a method that it gives you feedback as to where your body weight is, which part of the foot you're using, how you're using the ground to interact. And you can, that's another way for us to train our students, because every movement that we make, the force has to come from the ground, and that's what it tells you.
So there's a question. So it's ideal to use a K-Vest with a launch monitor. You're completely like taped up.
Well, the answer to that, I would say, is no, because I think while technology is very, very good to get feedback, it can also be dangerous if you use too much technology and if you get too deep into that. The best thing would be to use technology with a qualified personnel who knows that if there are 30 parameters that the technology is measuring, the one or maximum two parameters that you as the student need to know is filtered by your instructor and the certified person, and you only need to know one or two things. You do not need to know the 30 things. Trust me, that's the correct way to learn. Otherwise, there's just too much information, and it's not going to help your game.
Right. Also, there's an interesting question. Whoever wants to take this, is ball fitting important, and how does one do ball fitting?
Karan, you, me, who's taking this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, ball fitting is important, but I would say that ball fitting is important once you have actually reached a certain level of. I would say if your handicap is a single-digit handicap, then we can look at ball fitting. Unless you have a specific problem that your ball does not stop on the green, or you're actually looking for more distance or whatever. Ball fitting can be done, but it's more so for once you've maybe reached like a 10 or below handicap. That means you have some sort of a consistency in the pattern that you swing back and through, and the type of ball flight that you have, the type of strike that you have. Then we can look at ball fitting to give you maybe a certain advantage. Maybe you have maybe you hit the ball too low, then you probably need a higher spinning ball. So that can be done. Maybe you'd love to get another 10 yards of distance. So then, depending upon your swing and what are the parameters that can help you to get 10 more yards, a ball fit can get you those 10 yards.
Right. So Karan, this question's to you. Does buying an expensive like a Chrome Soft or a Pro V ball for somebody who hits it 120 yard actually going to give him more distance?
Not necessarily at all. Not necessarily. I mean, for every level of golfer and for every swing speed, and like Anitya said, parameters like spin rate or hitting it high or low, there is a particular ball that would suit you better. However, one thing that goes in ball fitting also is the feel when you make contact, and what does it do around the greens. A lot of players would consider the feel of impact, and then the sound, and that it gives you, and the amount of control that you get around the green as two factors that they would probably consider more than others. So I mean, fitting the ball is there's a technical aspect to it, but then there's also more of a personal feel and the control that you get with it around the greens that will also contribute to making the decision.
So I think we'll have to set up a club fitting session with you both again in the future, because there are a lot of questions coming, but we won't go too much off the track of what we were talking about. Little bit about the putting labs, the different companies. Obviously, Sandputt is the most famous. Then you've got the Tommy, and there are a couple more other companies. But what does a putting lab do really?
The Sandpot lab we work extensively with, so I can talk a little bit about that. It's basically sensors that get attached to your putter shaft, and then when you make the motion of making a putting stroke, it records various parameters like where did the ball hit on the face, what is your path, how much is the face rotating back and through, and what is the angle that you're making contact with the ball, etc., etc. Then again, as we've been speaking throughout this session, it really is for you to understand the readings and then try to change the outcome for the better. So you really need to know how to read those numbers and what really is going on during the putt. I have not worked much with the others. Anitya, you have any? That's really what the Sandpot does.
Yeah, so we've got a Tommy, which is pretty similar. It's a little simpler version of, gives us about 9 or 10 parameters. So just one more question. This is, just because I can see a lot of youngsters there. What is the main cause of short putts being missed? Obviously, I'm going little off this, but because there are a lot of youngsters here, and both of you are two of India's top teachers, so just to hear from you guys, when somebody is missing a lot of short putts, what is he looking at? Is he looking more at the path of the putter head, or is he looking at better contact, or what are the things that he's going to look for?
I would say look at the number one thing. If you're missing short putts from a technical aspect, definitely look at where your putter face is aiming, because the face is responsible for where the ball goes. If your putter face is pretty much where you want it to be at the point of impact, I think that's taken care of. There's only two other factors on a technical side, which is basically point of contact. And if you're hitting it off so think of it, if you're playing tennis, or if you're playing cricket and you wanted to hit a ball in the direction of the covers, the two things you would do is you would firstly make sure that you hit the ball in the center of the bat. And secondly, your bat needs to be pointing towards the covers. Otherwise, the ball's not going to go there. It's the same thing with the short putt. Those two things matter. In golf, those two things matter. Hit the ball in the center of the club, putter, driver, iron, or whatever, and then aim the club where you want the ball to go. So if you take care of those two things, the short putt will be taken care of, or any shot in golf will be taken care of. That's 95% of what everything, of all the launch monitors, the K-West and everything, that's what tells you. Hit the ball in the center of your racket and aim the racket where you want the ball to go.
Right. So coming to something that I think we are all proud of. You've come with a putting system, a putting. I won't call it a mat. It sounds too this thing, but it's something which in India you not really imagine that someone would come with a high-tech practice product. Why don't you both talk about it? Because it's something fascinating that in a country like India we could create a product like that. So why don't you talk a little bit about it, and we'll also maybe Sia, you can play a couple of the videos before both Anitya and Karan talk about it. Sia, Pramit, whoever's there, can you just play that video? Yeah. I think there's one more video, right?
Yes, sir.
So it looks pretty high tech. So
Yeah,
what is this?
it's called the One Putt, Indrajit. It's a tiltable putting platform. So when we spoke about, we always used to have these indoor mats and putting carpets where you just roll the ball into the hole. This one actually would simulate and give you far more options to putt on, and very similar to what you would get on the golf course, which means that you can practice left to right putts, right to left putts, uphill, downhill, all on this platform. About the product, Anitya, you'll have a developer's view on this.
No. I think we both do. But yes, I think Indrajit, the idea was that we both grew up, playing golf all day long and then coming home and going onto our putting mats at home. And the idea here was that can we make or develop a machine where you can practice a straight putt. You can, if you want to practice a right edge putt, you can tilt it, use the machine, use the touch screen there, or you can you can even download our app and put it on your phone and simply tilt the machine using the app. And I can then practice a 1-inch right putt, a 2-inch right putt, a 3-inch right putt, so on a left to right putt as well. And then let's say I played today, and let's say I didn't putt well on the downhill putts, or I didn't putt well on the left to right putts. So I can come back home and I can then adjust it to say, okay, can I practice a 3 degrees left to right putt that is 2 degrees downhill? So I can actually create a real world scenario, and I can practice any putt that I want. And the beauty of the machine is, as soon as I select the putt that I want to practice, as you saw in the videos, there's a projection that comes there. The projection actually shows me the line that I should set myself up on, and it shows me the corridor that that my golf ball needs to travel, so that from start to finish, if it travels inside that corridor, the ball has the best chance of ending up in the hole. It's pretty similar to what you see on TV. Sometimes you're watching a PGA Tour tournament, and there's a guy lining up a putt, and then on the screen you see a corridor that the ball must travel within. So automatically the machine shows you a corridor that the ball must travel within, and that gives you brilliant feedback. As a player, I get to know where I should be aiming, where my ball should start, where it should travel, what speed I should hit it at, and it's a brilliant way to improve your putting using a real world scenario, but from the comfort of your home.
That's amazing. So I know, because I kind of checked and it's really expensive. What kind of pricing, if someone was looking at buying one, what kind of, very roughly, this is not obviously a sales pitch here, but it's something that people wonder, that how expensive is a launch monitor, how expensive is something that you've developed.
So Indrajit, this we are retailing the base model starting 3.6 lakhs upwards, and it goes to about 10 to 12 lakhs for the bigger ones, bigger machines with the additional features. But then there's a whole lot of custom sizes that we will also do.
And how does it compare to prices? If someone had to buy something similar abroad, what would they be paying?
I think the comparative starts up at about 11,000 euros. The tiltable platform available in Europe starts up at 11,000 euros. So we are, I think, Karan, we thought we beat the price by about 50-60%, right?
About 60%, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this thing will have warranties and all, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
Sia, can you share that screen? So this is just something I wanted to show you and ask you, actually, is this something similar? Sia, Pramit, can you share that screen?
Yes, sir. One second. It's coming.
Obviously, it needs to make a little bigger. Can you just make this a little bigger? So this is something that we always watch on the PGA Tour, or even when we want to practice, we kind of would love to have something like this. So is this something similar that you do?
It is very similar, but we will have a solid projection on the ground. Obviously, this is you can see a black line and a yellow line.
Right.
So a solid projection, which basically, also depends on the speed of the putt, right? If the ball travels faster, it turns less, right? So it has to travel within that corridor at a speed which could vary a little bit, and that would show you when you, let's say you can tilt the platform 4 degrees maximum right or 4 degrees maximum left in increments of 0.5 degrees. So once you set it, let's say at 3 degrees right to left, once the platform finishes tilting, the projection appears on the ground on the turf, which shows you the corridor, but it also shows you a straight line where you must aim your putter, or where you must align.
Right.
So then you got a alignment laser line showing you, plus you also got the corridor which the ball must travel in to reach the
So
hole.
it's not only a practice device; it's also like a teaching device where you can improve
Yeah.
your skill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Yeah, you can remove this skill. So just coming back to technology, there is no end to it, right? Uh, from a now that three of us are discussing, we've all been teaching for years and years and years, and this is something that I've also felt is that there are a lot of teachers who don't use technology at all, and they want, I mean, they kind of shy away from technology. And then there are teachers who are only looking at numbers. So they forget that they've got somebody swinging in front of them, and they're just looking at the screen and just reading the numbers. So, what is, I mean, obviously we would be somewhere in between, but just talk a little bit, because this is something I always talk about with my students, that either end is not good, right? So what are the disadvantages of having a teacher who's only looking at numbers, and what is the disadvantage of having a teacher who doesn't want to look at anything?
Yeah, okay, go
Sorry.
ahead. You go ahead first.
Okay, I'll give it briefly. I think I heard some years ago, it was famously said that why guess when you can measure. So I think that stuck with me, and it's like, simplest example I can give you is, if I have pain in my arm and I go to a doctor can look at it and tell me what exactly there is. He may or may not guess that I have a fracture. It may be correct, may not be correct, but if he gets an X-ray done, it'll give him a much more clearer picture as to what's happening in my arm and why is the pain coming. If the fracture does not show anything, but there's still pain coming, he needs to go in for an MRI, or the X-ray doesn't show anything. Sorry, and the MRI will give him a far more clearer picture. But at the same time, when the MRI report comes to the doctor, it'll be a very detailed report, which he does not need to tell everything of that report to me. He basically needs to look at that report and he needs to tell me, okay, you need to have this medicine, this medicine, this medicine, and I need to put you in a cast, or whatever that is. That's his job. And I think the similar thing applies to us. I think I'm all for use of technology, because I think it measures and tells us, rather than leaving it to our expertise, and which at a lot of times may be a guess. If we can't measure an attack angle, you can't really measure an attack angle with your naked eye, or even with the video analysis. You do need a launch monitor to measure attack angle. So definitely technology helps in that. But yes, I don't think we should go to the other extreme to say that we only want to use technology in lessons and we want to share as much information from technology. That I'm definitely wary of, because I'd like to share very, very selective information from what technology tells me to what I tell my student. And I want to filter that, and I want to filter that to a level where it makes things simpler for my student rather than make it more complicated. Karan?
Yeah, you're definitely going to be more accurate with your diagnosis if you have the use of technology, because you can get far more accurate data. And I mean, the simplest of things is the video analysis. Why even go all the way to the launch model? Let's see the video analysis, where you can see somebody swing in real time, and an experienced teacher can, to a great degree, try and also figure out what the problem is. But if you have the use of a video camera, or let's say the V1 software, where you can play it back and draw tools, and uh, you draw lines and circles, and with those tools also explain. Obviously, if the technology is available, then use it. Like Anitya said, if you can measure it, then measure it, because you're going to be far more accurate with what you can you can diagnose in terms of the problem, and then be quicker to also give the right medicine to get better. If I can put it that way. And then, yeah, and really, there are those who get deeply involved in the numbers and only look at numbers. Yeah, I mean, too much on that side of the spectrum is also not a good thing. So you got to strike the right balance.
Okay. So, I mean, if we can just take this another just 5-7 more minutes. Coming back to club fitting, we would obviously love to have one session dedicated to that. But how important is club fitting? Let's say to a 20 handicapper. I'm not going into the lower handicappers because they already know, but someone who's a 20 handicapper or someone who's 8 years old, who's on 10 years old. I've got some 10-year-olds going on asking questions. So, how important is it for a 10-year-old to get fitted, or what are the things you're looking at when you're fitting a 10 or 11-year-old kid or a 20 handicapper? So, obviously two different. So, Anitya, you could take one and Karan could take one.
Yeah. So, Indrajit,
yeah.
Sorry.
Karan, you would.
Yeah. So, Indrajit, club fitting and playing with the right clubs is going to be useful for every level of golfer. Now, to what degree you want to fit out the clubs depends whether you're a junior looking to just get the right weight in your clubs, or you're a 20 handicapper looking for the right configuration and the right flex, and the pro golfer is then looking for far more detailed analysis of club fitting. But playing with the right clubs is going to be useful for every level of golfer.
Yeah, I think my message would be to all your kids who are here. Really for junior golf, as you're growing up, you should have the right height of the clubs that you play with. I think most junior sets are nowadays available depend on basis your height. But if there's one advice I can give you and your parents is just make sure that remember that lighter and shorter are better than heavier and longer. So it means that if you have to take clubs that are lighter, don't take clubs that are heavier, and take clubs that are shorter, don't take clubs that are too long for you. So if you stay with this rule, you're pretty much okay. You don't need to get any much more into club fitting as junior golfers. Generally choose clubs that are matching your height, because most equipment manufacturers will label that accordingly. And if you have a choice, choose a lighter club rather than a heavier club. And if you have a choice, choose a shorter club rather than a longer club.
Also, just one more question about compression of golf balls. Is it for the compression of a ball? You get a 80 compression, a 90 compression. Generally, it's all around 100. So, what is the difference, and how does compression make a difference to a shot?
Go ahead, is it?
So I think you've got to look at, number one thing is your swing speed, because obviously if you don't have the swing speed, you can't actually. Compression is basically how hard the inside core is wound, and if you have the swing speed, then I would say go between a 90 to 100. If you don't, 80 might be better for you, because you don't have the swing, the speed, or the contact's not going to be strong enough to affect the ball, giving you the best results. Lots of ladies, lots of juniors, I would say stay with 80 to 90. Don't go to 100. They're definitely the faster hitters and the faster swingers can go between 90 and 100.
Yeah. Also, so before we end, I've been to, obviously I've spent a lot of time, and I always spend a lot of time at the DLF Academy. If you can just tell us what is the technology that is available at the DLF Golf Academy. A lot of people don't know. I know for a fact that probably tech-wise, it's at par with any academy in the world. But Just very briefly, just tell us what is the technology available at your academy?
We've got 4 studios, 3 studios which are fitted with the ability that you can hit the ball from the indoor part to actually hit the real ball a real distance. But the studios are fitted with high-speed cameras from 4 angles, face on, down the line, behind you, and overhead. All those are connected to a server, which in real time you can record and play back through the V1 4-camera software. We have the SAM Balance Lab, we have K-West, we have now a TrackMan launch monitor in each of the studios. And in addition to a whole lot of training aids. Then we have a unique putting studio, which is actually undergoing a change right now. We have fitted our academy with a TrackMan simulator a few months ago in studio number 3, which is now actually being relocated to the bigger studio we have, and we are fitting a 15-foot by 10-foot one putt that you just saw. The first piece that we're producing, we're going to place it in our academy, so that studio will have a TrackMan simulator and a 15 by 10 one putt, which you can, like you saw, you can putt left to right, right to left, uphill, downhill, with the corridors and everything. And of course, we keep our eyes and ears open. Anything interesting that comes out in the world of golf and we feel we want to incorporate in our systems, in our academy, we always go ahead and
So you have the K-West also.
We have the K-West also, that's right. Yeah, but the technology is as good as people who use it. So we believe that the instructors should be able to, every technology is not for every lesson or every golfer. You got to really understand what the student needs, and then accordingly, you have the technology available, you have the machines available, then you got to use it to making the best out of the lesson.
Right. So thanks, Karan, Anitya, both of you for having this discussion. This will also be available on YouTube. So I'll share the links with everybody. And there are a lot of people who are asking questions, and someone may be interested in looking at some products. So we'll obviously pass them on to you. Just before we finish, just one parting advice to all the youngsters. One advice from Karan and one from Anitya, and then we will end today's session. To all the young golfers who are attending the show.
My advice to all the young golfers attending the show is always work hard, always try to improve on your technique. Obviously, if technology is available, then it's going to help you. But seek advice of your teaching professional. They're all equipped and educated to help you improve fast and improve for the longevity of your game.
Anitya?
Yeah, firstly, thank you, Indrajit, for having us here today. Lovely session. We really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else took something back from this session. My advice to kids would be that you're based in Calcutta, and you're probably training at Tolly, and it's a lovely facility. I would encourage all of you to play a lot of sport, because it gives you the opportunity to play a lot of sport there. Not many facilities do that, so play a lot of sport other than golf as well, because it will help you to become really good athletes by the time you're 14, 15, 16. And trust me, if you're really good athletes, golf will become much easier, and you will enjoy your game much better. You'll get better at the game much faster. And lastly, listen to Indrajit, listen to his set of instructors. They've got they've got the right plans for you, and they'll help you to become the best golfers that you can.
Thank you, Anitya. Thank you, Karan.
Thank you,
Definitely we'll set up another session, because I think we could do one on club fitting and how to get the correct club for. Because there were questions which I couldn't take, like how to choose a wedge, how to choose a putter, the putter face. So I think we'll definitely set up one with both of you, where we can talk about equipment and how to choose equipment. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, Indrajit. Thank you, Sia. Thank you, Pramit.